My partner of over 3 years has been living with me for the past 18 months. We're in our 30s, happy, and talk about how this is it for us, relationship-wise. There's just one problem. He doesn't want to get married, and I really do. Marriage is important to me. However, after many long discussions, I realized that I love him enough to stay and take marriage off the table, even though I really want it. Now here's the issue. I got paperwork for my insurance a few days ago, and I made a joke about how my parents are going to be really comfortable if I die, especially in an accident, because of my insurance policies and the added accidental death insurance I have. My boyfriend and I got to talking, and he mentioned how I should really change my beneficiary to him. I said no, absolutely not. I told him I would never make anyone who isn't blood or legal family my beneficiary. I said I would add him in the future if one day he decided he wanted to get married, but as it stands now, my insurance will remain as is. I also told him I wouldn't add him to the title of my house without marriage because I bought it before we got together and I own it. Now he thinks that I'm an asshole for holding marriage as a bargaining chip. We don't have to get married, but I'm not comfortable tying my finances to him without it. So am I wrong here?
So it's Friday night. My man tells me he's going to go out with the boys for a little while. So, of course, a couple hours later, I check his location on the OnStar, which, by the way, he knows absolutely nothing about. And he's at this particular address that's unfamiliar to me. And I'm like, you know what? The last few times he's gone out, he's been going to this address. And I'm now really curious. I want to know who the fuck lives there. I'm like, I need to stalk his ass. So I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, I got to call my sister to come over here. She'll watch the kids while they're sleeping. I'll take her car, go to this apartment, look through the window and see what's going on. And imagine I look through the window and he's sitting there with some fucking bitch having drinks on the couch, laughing, joking, having fun. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I need to kick the door down and beat both their asses. And then I'm like, you know what? Maybe you're overreacting a little bit. Let's take a moment and give him a call, see if he actually answers the phone. So I give him a call. The first ring, he doesn't answer. My heart's palpitating. The second ring, I'm like, I got to call my sister right now. And just as I'm about to hang up, he answers the phone. He's like, hey, babe, what's up? And I'm like, hey, babe, what you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm at the bar, we used to go to before you had the baby. And I'm like, oh, tell everybody I said what's up. And he's like, hey, the wifey said what's up. And I'm like, shit, I almost killed someone innocent.
Reasons on why people in my high school used to think I was a hoe, part 2. So I go to my next class and I get a DM notification from some girl. It was a paragraph. And basically it says something along the lines of, if I ever find out that you're anywhere near my man one more time, I swear to God, I'm going to come back to that school and beat your ass right when you get out. And I was like, bro, what? So I said to her, who are you talking about? And she said the kid's name. And I was like, I didn't know that he had a girlfriend. He never told me he had a girlfriend. And she was like, yeah, okay, everybody knows that we're dating. We've been dating for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. And the kid was like 2 years older than me. So I'm pretty sure that girl went to my school and then like transferred or something. Which means that all those girls used to be friends with her. So when they saw me kiss him in the hallway, they ran straight to her and told her. And after that, everybody looked at me like the girl that kisses other girls' boyfriends. And that's why I think those popular girls started to dislike me. And my next reason is crazier than this one, so stay tuned.
My boyfriend and I have been on and off for about 4 years. We've had our share of problems that stem mostly from his parents. He comes from a very upper class family, and we met when I was just waitressing and he was in college for a high paying job. 6 months ago, I gave birth to a very much unplanned but beautiful baby girl. Of course, his parents were pissed about this, and from the start of my pregnancy kept trying to say that they didn't think it was my boyfriend's baby. But when our daughter was born, they became amazing grandparents. They always offered to keep her tons when we needed breaks, and it really helped us out, and they would always buy things for her, returning her with new outfits, bottles, toys, and etc. So anyways, a few days ago, my boyfriend came home and he was in a pretty bad mood. He didn't want to tell me, but in the end, he decided it was best if I knew. His parents let it slip that they had taken our daughter to get a DNA test about a month after she was born. Of course, the results came back that my boyfriend was the father, but he was pissed that they would even do something like this without our consent. I was livid. I called his parents and immediately told them that they were cut off. I don't need them or their money, and I'm disgusted that they would stoop so low. They apologized and said they only wanted what was best for their son, and they can't blame me for trying to be good parents.
I have many stories. So this story is about a client that I had. It was her very first time getting a Brazilian wax with me. At this time, I rented 2 rooms. I didn't have my own salon, so I had to keep my inventory in my room where I waxed. So I finished the session and then I stepped out, allowed her to dress herself, but she was taking way too long. I tried to go back in the room, but she locked me out of my own room. So I let myself in with my key and caught her stealing wax from me. I immediately said, hey, that's going to cost you $30 plus the service. You're actually not allowed to open that. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, girl. Didn't know. No, she didn't know. She was stealing. I caught her right in the act. I charged her and I just blocked her off my system. Those are the type of people I don't ever want in my salon. So here's a story about an amazing guest of mine. She was pregnant, about to have the baby pretty much any day. She booked a tummy wax, a full Brazilian, and a leg wax. During her Brazilian, I noticed she had a lot of clear fluid. I'm thinking it's just discharge. She's pregnant. It's normal. So I advised her to just wipe it down a bit more. She did. I continued with the wax and I noticed she had more. But I really didn't think much about it. I just struggled through the wax, finally finished her Brazilian. Now I go to do her tummy and she's getting these contractions, but she said that she was getting them all week. We both think they're Braxton Hicks. Then she said that they're getting a bit stronger to just give us a break. Listen, all small business owners that offer a service will tell you that the worst customer that we have are the ones that are always late, the ones that do not respect our time, the ones that are always complaining, the ones that don't appreciate us. Those are the ones that we typically don't mind losing. I'm sorry, but it's true.
This is why you should never let your Uber driver cancel your ride while you're still in the car. I went dancing with some friends one night and got really drunk by midnight. My phone was dead and I was so drunk that I barely remember my friend calling me an Uber. I can vaguely remember them helping me in the car and telling me to get home safe. That's when he asked me how my night was and if I smoked. At this point, I sort of just slurred out that I did sometimes. He then offered me a J and this is when I started to get nervous and started paying attention. I tell him something like I'm really tired and just ready to go home. He keeps insisting and once again I say something not exactly like no, but not a yes, which he takes as a yes. I'm so drunk I can barely see straight or speak clearly. That's when he says, okay, I have to cancel the ride really quick because I can't give it to you while I'm on the clock. It takes me a second to realize how dangerous that is, and by the time I start to say something, he's canceled the ride and pulled over in the middle of nowhere. At this point, I'm panicking, I'm taking fake hits, and I'm thinking to myself how I can get out of this situation. After it's done, I tell him I can always call another Uber and he doesn't have to take me home. But he says he still has my address and he'll take me. As he starts driving, I tell myself to calm down and that I'm being paranoid. But that's when I realize he's going farther north and passing every exit that could get me back to my apartment.
When my daughter was born, she had dark skin and looked like her parents could be of African descent. My husband was furious and accused me of cheating and left right then and there. He told everyone on both sides of the family what happened and wanted a divorce. Then his friends and families all called me to say how upset they were and called me really nasty names. My mother was by my side the entire time as I kept professing my innocence. He refused to pick me up from the hospital, threw my stuff out on the lawn and changed the locks. When my sister called to get the baby stuff, he texted her a picture of a bare nursery room and said he got rid of everything. He even destroyed my art studio. Eventually, he agreed to do a paternity test and he was 100% the father. No one could believe this, so he did it again and he was the dad. One of his cousins did the ancestry thing and found out there was 30% of African in their family. This made Jim's paternal great-grandmother admit to having an affair around the same time Jim's grandfather was born, and because he could pass as hers, she just assumed her husband was the father. Since then, he's been reaching out and everyone has come to apologize. I told him I needed time and he asked to see the baby and I let him, but I'm too afraid to physically hand her to him. I've never cheated and have been 100% innocent all this time. Am I the asshole for not wanting to give him a second chance?
Storytime ex-boyfriend edition. Let's talk about the drama. So I dated this guy for about 1.5 years. I knew him for 8 years before that. He was actually my teacher at university. But don't worry, we dated way after I graduated. I'm even a little bit older than him. Artsy, cute, nerdy, what can go wrong? Well, we could only hang out after 7 p.m. and there were only specific days that we could hang out. Yes, I know, red flags, I was stupid. But the time we had together was amazing. So I decided to turn a blind eye. This guy, with no shame at all, hangs out with other girls and posts them all over his social media. He refused to call me his girlfriend, but I was the love of his life, the most beautiful girl he's ever been with. I even went to his family functions. So basically, I was a girlfriend at convenience. So I start paying attention. There's girls' hair all over his apartment. Perfectly laid out, by the way. She knew about me. So I decided that I was going to take my pink hair and lay it right next to hers. This story gets so juicy, like for part 2.
My husband and I were expecting our first daughter, and he suggested the name Tiffany, and I fell in love. When I asked what made him pick it, he said he saw it in a movie. I didn't think much of it, and so a couple weeks later, I called my sister-in-law to let her know we're going to name our daughter Tiffany. She was super surprised because she said she never wanted to name her child after her husband's high school girlfriend. I was really confused, but then she told me that they were together from sophomore year of high school to junior year of college. I knew he had a long-term relationship, but I never knew the girl's name. After hanging up, I confronted my husband and he tried blowing it off at first, but eventually admitted that it was true. I told him I'm refusing to name my daughter after his ex-girlfriend, and he told me it's too late, I'm overreacting, and I can't change my mind since I'm only due in 5 more weeks. I basically cried to get as much information as I can when he finally told me that. She had contacted him because she was getting married and was having second thoughts. My husband admitted that talking to her made him realize he never stopped having feelings for her, but he loved me too. The reason he suggested the name was because he knew he couldn't leave me to be with her, so he wanted something to honor her with. What do I do? When I was 27, my boyfriend proposed to me. We both have stable jobs and decided to plan the wedding immediately. Around the same time, my brother proposed to his 24-year-old girlfriend and they started planning for the wedding as well. One day, my future sister-in-law called me to see if we can go over wedding planning. That's when she told me if I could get married in the afternoon and that she could get married an hour or two later and then we share the reception. She said it'd become a great way for us to become sisters and that this will mean the world to my brother. In reality, I know that they aren't financially well off and she wants the fancy wedding without the fancy wedding price tag. I didn't really know what to say, but I told her that's mine and my fiancé's wedding. We planned it for us and we want it to be about us. She exploded in anger and said I wouldn't understand how hurtful it is to see the amazing wedding that I'm planning and know that she couldn't have something like that. I told her I waited to get married so that I could afford the wedding I wanted. And she said she wants to get married before she's old and dried up like some people. She called me heartless and a selfish bitch. I stormed off and my brother called me a few days later. He asked if I could please reconsider. I told him I didn't want to share my wedding day and I wasn't sure if I even wanted his fiancé there. When I was 15 years old, I found out I was pregnant with twins. My boyfriend at the time was 21 and had nothing to do with me. When he knew I wasn't going to give them up for adoption or abortion, he walked away. My mom was disappointed, but she helped me throughout my entire pregnancy and my delivery. A few weeks before my due date, my boyfriend texted me saying he broke up with this girl and that he wanted to get together and he was going to try to become the best dad he can. After the twins were born, it was blissful for a few moments until my mother started becoming toxic. She would take them places without my knowledge, and I would wake up to an empty house not knowing where my kids were. She started overriding my decisions, and when I confronted her, she told me she knew better because she was an adult, and I was in no position to contradict her. After years of this happening, I finally had enough, and I managed to get enough money to afford a hotel for a couple of nights while I decided what to do. I asked my aunt to watch my kids for a few days so I can go out and find a job, and when I returned to the motel, they were gone. All of them. Hey guys, this is actually a story one of you guys sent in from your own personal experiences, so they'll be in the comments looking for advice, so please be nice and look forward to part 2. When I was 15, I was head over heels for this boy. We were together for almost a year, but most people didn't know, behind closed doors, he was very abusive. I was already dealing with my own problems at home, and with this abuse, everything just piled up. And then one day I found out I was pregnant, and I wanted to keep the baby. Keep in mind I was 15 and had mental issues going on as well. But then when my parents found out, they were furious with me and my boyfriend. One day when I was looking for something, I saw my mom's computer about me being transferred. I didn't think much of it and I just brushed it off. After a really good day at school, I came home to 2 strangers telling me to pack up and we had to leave. I was extremely terrified and they grabbed me and my parents were nowhere in sight. A few plane rides later, we were in North Carolina for a wilderness program. I cried for days not knowing how to deal with the pain of being alone and pregnant. When the snow started coming in, I eventually got hypothermia and I fainted and I rolled down a hill. I was so scared when I woke up and kept asking how my baby was. I was bleeding badly and I was told I lost my child. From then, I blamed my parents because they knew this would happen. I became stronger and stronger and finished my time at the wilderness program before a year later
Before I tell you the story, I want to clarify that I do wax women on their cycle. All you have to do is come in a bit earlier, change into a new tampon, freshen up, and let me know you're on your cycle. Do not cut the string, I will move it around. So this one time I was waxing my client. She forgot to tell me she was on her cycle. I didn't see the string at all. I applied the strips, and when I pulled one of them, I pulled the tampon out with the strip. It was not a big deal for me. We honestly just laughed it off. But this is why it's important for you guys to let us know.
Wow.